I'm Elizabeth, and I'm not buying books this year. So why am I talking about my most anticipated 2019 romance releases? Stay tuned and find out. So, my 2019 most anticipated romance releases. I made a decision to not buy any books this year. Though when I say I'm not buying any books, if you saw my intro video to this project, which I will link in the cards if I can figure out how, otherwise it will be in the description box down below. I'm still new to this YouTube thing. I have some rules that do allow me to purchase certain books. So, the relevant loopholes for a lot of these particular books that I'm excited about, and honestly, these are not books that I chose for this video for this reason. These are just, I looked through 2 different lists of over 100 romance books that are coming out in 2019. Of course, that's not exhaustive. Not everybody has put out their release schedule for the entire year yet. But I did not pick these books because these are books I'm allowed to acquire. I picked these books because they are generally by authors that I have either read before, or there's something specific about the book that just really grabbed me and that I couldn't possibly say no to. Although, as you'll see, there is one, at least, that I will definitely have to say no to until 2020. That one's going to be a big test. We're not there yet. So let's talk about what's on my list. The first book is An Unconditional Freedom by Alyssa Cole. That comes out on February 26th. It is part of her historical romance series, The Loyal League. I read the first book in that series last year, I think. Then shortly thereafter, the next book came out. Alyssa was kind enough to send me the paperback of that book. In fact, I think it's right behind me. Somewhere. I thought it was right behind me. Right, okay, I can't find it, which is why I'm trying to read down my paperbacks. As you'll see, they're stacked several deep, so it's probably behind somewhere. There are also still some books in the in my bedroom, so those might be in there. This 569 paperback problem is a problem. Anyway, so The Loyal League. I read the first book last year. It was phenomenal. Easily the best, one of the best things that I read. It was the heroine is a spy for the North. The hero is her contact. And they go on adventures together. It was really, really good. The history was really interesting. And so I'm really looking forward to this one. And because I am allowed to purchase books by marginalized authors, and Alyssa Cole's Black, I can acquire this one, assuming that I have a gift card to spend. So that's where I'm at with those. I would also expect possibly my library, my local system, one of my local systems, Arlington County, tends to get her books on a pretty regular basis. So that may be another way that I can read this one. This particular book is a Cuban-American heroine who is offered a deal to spy for the Confederacy. She lives in Florida, to spy for the Confederacy in order to get her dad released from prison. So these like spy-based Civil War romances with Black heroines, I'm all about it. Okay, so then the second book, oh right, so this one we'll see, is Lady Notorious by Teresa Romaine. This also comes out February 26th. It's also a historical romance. It is also about a heroine with an adventurous life. This one I really am hoping that the library has. I have several books on my TBR by Romaine. I have enjoyed several of her books in the past, but because I enjoyed them, whenever they go on sale, I tend to acquire them, and therefore I have more than one on my TBR of hers. So this particular book is about a female Bow Street runner, and I have no idea how historically accurate that is. I really don't care. I'm sure it either is or it's plausible. And she is investigating a murder plot against a duke, and I believe the hero is the duke's son, who kind of comes and asks her to do this. Teresa Romaine's a really interesting historical romance author. She writes really typically intricately plotted books. They usually are fairly angsty. These are not sort of the light, fluffy, gaming hells and ballroom style historical regencies. And that's what makes me love her. The next book is American Dreamer by Adriana Herrera. It's a male contemporary. It's out March 4th. The premise is an Afro-Caribbean food truck owner wants to move his business from upstate New York to New York City. And while he's in the process of doing this, he meets someone where, I think Ithaca is where it's set. And that sort of puts a little bit of a crimp in his plans. So this one's particularly interesting to me because I love foodie romance. I've been writing my blog Cooking Up Romance for 4 years, and foodie romances were always the easiest ones for me to review and sort of link a recipe to. I may go ahead and do that for this one. We'll just have to see. Again, Herrera is Latina, and so I will definitely acquire this one at some point. The next book is The Austen Playbook by Lucy Parker. This comes out April 22nd. This is my heartbreaker. I love Lucy Parker. I love Lucy Parker's books, and Lucy Parker and I follow each other on Twitter and talk about sci-fi romance, particularly Kraken romance. Has been a feature of our conversations. Yeah, Kraken, tentacles. This is not the conversation that I thought I'd ever have with Lucy Parker if you've ever read her books. She writes phenomenal romantic comedies. In fact, I think her book, Act Like It, was sort of one of the first of the sort of new renaissance of romantic comedies. I don't mean to say that she was the absolute first or that nobody had done it before her, and obviously there was the whole Bridget Jones era of chick lit that was all about the romantic comedy. But I think some of the enthusiasm for romantic comedies now can be traced back to Act Like It. It was a very, very funny book, and sort of set in the London theater scene, as is this one. The heroine of this book is the sister of the hero from the previous book, and she causes a scandal at a house party, and there's a theater critic who I gather is the hero. The problem is that this book is one that I cannot acquire in 2019. It doesn't meet any of the requirements. So as much as I would really love to read this book, I can't. That's rough. I know it's so silly to have a particular emotional attachment to a particular book. You know, I have always read her books early. I get ARCs. Typically, I'm approved through Carina Press, who's the publisher of this one, and has been the publisher of the entire series. And so I typically read them months and months before they come out, and highly anticipate their release so that I can talk with everyone about them. Unless I get this one in audio, which unfortunately historically the narrator of these audio books hasn't really worked all that well for me. I don't like her pacing. I don't like the narrator's pacing. I just don't. I think she has weird comedic timing, and so I don't find them as funny when she reads them as when I read them myself. So you know, I'll probably just wait until 2020 to read this one. Sad. Okay, so the next book is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. It's a contemporary. It comes out May 7th. I read The Kiss Quotient last year, as did I think everyone else in the entire world, whether they enjoyed it or not, although a lot of people did. It was one of the big buzzy books of last year, another romantic comedy. I really enjoyed the Bay Area setting. The heroine is on the autism spectrum. The hero is a male escort. I just really thought a lot of that was just interesting and handled really well, and I really love the family dynamics, and I'm from the Bay Area originally, so I really liked sort of seeing the setting develop. It was just, it was the Bay Area that I knew. And frequently, you know, when books are set in San Francisco or down the peninsula, they're not necessarily always the Bay Area that I know. In this particular book, it sounds like it's an arranged marriage. I think the hero is Vietnamese. He is also, I think, autistic or on the autism spectrum somehow. And his mother goes to Vietnam to acquire him a bride. I love the arranged marriage trope in historical romance. I think it'll be really interesting to see that in a contemporary setting, and I really hope that either the library acquires this or that I get a gift card to spend, because I can also buy this book. The second to last one is probably the book that I am most excited about for this year. I know I spent a lot of time talking about Lucy Parker, but this is Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. Last year I read almost all of Beverly Jenkins' backlist. I think I had discovered her maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I first started my blog. Her current series at the time is, I guess she's maybe still writing that one. Her books are all sort of set, I mean, they're historical romances, so they're all set in the United States, often in the West, at various time periods, sort of going all the way from just before the Civil War through just after Reconstruction. And then she's got a few contemporaries as well. And actually, I haven't read all of the contemporaries, so that's kind of where I haven't really delved into her backlist. But the series that she was writing, Tempest Forbidden, I can't remember the name of that series. I'll put it in the description box on the screen. Those have been set in the West, post-Reconstruction, and they were very good. I really enjoyed them. At some point, I think I saw her speak at the Northeast Regional RWA conference last spring, April maybe, and she was utterly dynamic. She's a wonderful speaker. She's so motivational. I got a chance to meet her, and she's delightful. And so I went all the way through her entire backlist, starting with Indigo. And 2 of my favorite books, I'm sorry, this is going to be so long. I thought this was going to be a short video. 2 of my favorite books that I read in her backlist, although it's really hard, I mean, it's impossible to pick 2 because really there are like 8 that I would consider keepers that I could read over and over and over again and never get tired of them. 2 of those are Through the Storm and Winds of the Storm. Raymond and Sable in Through the Storm and Archer and Zara in Winds of the Storm were 2 of my favorite pairings. So these are, again, Reconstruction, for the most part. The first one sort of starts a little bit before that, but mostly Reconstruction era romances in New Orleans, a family of brothers, and this next one, Rebel, is about Drake Levesque and a school teacher whose school is burned down by the blurb calls them thugs. I think if you have read either through this, I think Winds of the Storm is where it happens. I don't, they are thugs for sure, but I think they're racist white thugs, I think is the real crux of the matter. And it's a historical thing that really happened to black schools. So, you know, I was 100% on board with anything about Drake Levesque, but the fact that it's still set in New Orleans, still set in that same time period that I honestly don't know a whole lot about, besides sort of through these books. I mean, in, you know, my high school, basic high school knowledge of the Reconstruction period, I'm really, really excited about that. That comes out May 28th. Okay, the final book that's coming out in 2019 is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I actually got a chance to read a very, very early draft of this book when before Jen had, I think before she'd even sent it to her agent. So this was pre-publication. The book has changed since then slightly. It is a Renaissance fair romance about a pirate and a beer wench. I mean, obviously they have other jobs. He's an English teacher, a high school English teacher, and she works in a bookstore. And I think I said in my last video, or maybe 2 videos ago, I said I absolutely adore Renaissance fairs. There's something magical about romances set at Renaissance fairs. I read A Hard Day's Night by Katie McAllister years and years ago when I first started my blog. And it was a little bit silly, but just the Renaissance fair setting is just completely enough to grab me and hold me and not let me go. And even though that book is a little bit silly, this one is funny, romantic. I can't even tell you how good it is. And she's a debut author. I'll have to look up the actual release date. I didn't write that down for some reason. I know there is one. So I'll put that, you know, here somewhere. And I'm really looking forward to reading the final copy of that book. And because I beta read it, I am allowed to acquire a signed copy. So those are my most anticipated reads for 2019. I am really, really excited for all of these books, and of course it sounds like most of them I'm going to be able to acquire at some point in one way or another before the end of the year, although we'll just, you know, have to see how that goes because it is sort of gift card dependent. So tell me in the comments, what books are you looking forward to in 2019? Are you looking forward to the same things that I am? Do you have other things on your radar? What are you excited about? Have a great week. Doubt not. Slay some words, and remember, Lex has your back. Bye.